Today is Friday, the 5th of September 2025. We're having our morning market analysis. Now, today is very, very important in this market because today we're having the biggest event in the Forex industry, which is called the NFP, the non-farm payroll. Now, today's morning analysis, we will not really be doing much of analysis. It's just to get us prepared for the live session we're going to have in the afternoon. Because usually on NFP days like this, market often can be very, very quiet in the morning. So, we won't be analyzing much of any instrument. We're just looking at the dollar and preparing ourselves ahead of the live session that will take place this afternoon by 1:15 p.m. So I know some of us might be new to trading, some have been with us for quite a while, but for the benefit of those who are new, we just want to show you how we do some of these things so that by 1:15 p.m. you are not a total stranger. You have an idea of how to go about placing a trade by yourself. Now, this event, like I said, is coming up by 1:15, but then it's not the only event that would come out around that period. Okay, we're going live by 1:15 rather. The data itself will be released by 1:30 p.m. And the data will be released simultaneously with employment change and unemployment rate from Canada. So we have card employment change, unemployment rate. Then we now have the main one, which is the average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and unemployment rate from United States. So what we are concerned about is actually this data from the US. That's our main focus. We are not really going to trade that from Canada. But then I will give you the implication of the card also. These are just the things we're going to be doing this morning. Now, what is average hourly earning? Average hourly earning is the change in the price businesses pay for labor, excluding the farming industry. An actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. What does this mean? Average hourly earning, in the US, the minimum wage in the United States is $10 per hour. So average hourly earning is going to measure how much, in businesses pay. How many people are being paid $10 per hour? Somebody earned $10 per hour now. By the next month, as his income increase from $10 to above that, that is what this data, seeks to get. And actual greater than forecast is good for the country, is good for the currency. How does this impact upon the economy? Now, if somebody is earning $10 per hour now, and by the next month is earning, let's say, $15 per hour, something must have been responsible for the increment in the pay. Possibly he has better qualification, or by virtue of experience, he gets promoted. So how many people are earning have changed from $10 to $15 per hour? That's what we're looking at in this data. So if you have people, being upgraded from a low income to a medium income, that is good for the economy because it means people's purchasing power is increasing, and it's an indication that the economy is growing. Not that someone has been on the same position for the last 10 years and has not improved, even though, his income has not improved, even though he has better qualification and all those things. That's not good for the economy. But if people are growing on their jobs, as in growing legitimately, that is very, very good for the economy of the country. And secondly is non-farm employment change, and this is the change in the number of employed people during the previous month, excluding the farming industry. Again, actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. So here we're looking at the number of people that were employed, those people that got employed, that put out, companies put out an offer, a vacancy, they applied and they got employed. See, employment is a major indicator of the growth of the economy of any nation. Any nation where employment is a challenge, it's an indication that country's economy is not growing. So this non-farm employment change now is measuring the number of people that got employed. So if 100,000 people got employed last month compared to maybe 60,000 the previous month, it shows the economy is growing. It shows the economy is growing. Though in all this data, why they call it non-farm? Because the farming industry, the farming sector is excluded from this data. That is why it is called non-farm. So in this instance now, actual greater than forecast we said is good for the economy. So like I said, if you have 100,000 people employed this month, it's against 60,000 the previous month. It shows the economy of the country is growing. And finally, the third one is the unemployment rate. And this is the percentage of total workforce that is unemployed and actively seeking employment during the previous month. Here, actual less than forecast is good for the currency. There's this popular saying that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So unemployment rate measures those who are unemployed but actively seeking employment. Meaning, if you have a large number of people that are unemployed and actively seeking employment, then something is wrong. The economy, something is wrong with the economy of the country, something is wrong with the government policy. But if the number of the unemployed people is reducing, that is good for the economy. So that's why for the unemployment rate, actual less than forecast is good for currency. So if you have 100,000 people that are unemployed but actively seeking employment, in the previous month, let's say that's the month of this is September, that's the month of July, then by August, if the number reduces from 100,000 to 50,000, that is good. But if the number increases, if you have more unemployed people, that is bad. So that's why in this instance, we have actual less than forecast, to be good for the economy of the country. But the most important part of all this for many of us who might be new to trading is this: by 1:15 p.m. when we go live, we'll still do a little recap of this. We're going to show you our chart, what we're looking at, both technically and fundamentally, ahead of the release of this data. But the key point is this: if the data that is released comes out good for the dollar, then the color will be color green. If it's all good for the dollar, it's color green. And in that instance, we might be looking at buying the US dollar. Now, on the other hand, if the data release comes out bad for the dollar, bad in the sense that maybe actual less than forecast, then we'll be looking at selling the dollar. So green, green, green is good for the dollar. In that instance, the dollar will go massively bullish, and red, red, red means the data is bad for the dollar. And in that instance, the dollar will go massively bearish. So if it's bullish, it means we'll be buying. If it's bearish, it means we'll be selling. But then there are other scenarios that may also present itself on a day like this. It's possible to have some of the data to come out good for the dollar. We may have a scenario where maybe 2 is good for the dollar and 1 is bad for the dollar. If that happens, well, the market will still buy, but the red will drag down the green a little. In fact, let me say this scenario is a very tricky one. If you have some good and some maybe one bad for the dollar, it may lead to what we call a spike. Price may be doing some buying and selling simultaneously. The same thing is also possible to have maybe two or one or two red and one green. Such scenario can lead to irregular movement of price in the market, which we can call market spikes. Buying and selling simultaneously could happen, and it's usually not a good scenario. Though later on, in some instances, the market may just, that effect may wear out and price may still go in one direction. Now, the other scenario that is also possible is that we may end up having maybe one or two good for the dollar, and we have one, where actual is equal to the forecast, the black. Now, if this scenario is what presents itself, the dollar will still buy, but the volatility will be reduced. It won't buy as much as when it's a green, green, green. The same thing we may have maybe one or two to be of red color, and maybe one comes out black. In that instance, also the market will still sell, but with reduced volatility. All right, so these are the scenarios that could present itself this afternoon when this data, is going to be released. But the most important thing is that at PU Prime here, we've got it covered regardless of the outcome of the data. We're professionals at this. We've We've been doing this for well over getting close to 2 years now, and like I always tell people, we have over 80% win rate with our live trading sessions. And I tell you, today will not be an exception. So if you're on the platform this morning, you don't have an account with PU Prime, just reach out to me privately. I'll guide you through how to get started, create an account, verify it, and even possibly fund it before 1 p.m. today, so that it can be a part of this live trading session. If you've not traded with us before live, don't miss this opportunity. We're going to be trading live and we're going to be making money live. This one is live. We're going to give you the entry price, the take profit, the stop loss, and that's around 1:20 p.m. thereabouts. And by 1:30, boom, the data is released. And in a matter of a few seconds, you see price going to hit your profit. I don't want you to miss that experience. All right, so these are just the things I want to share this morning because I know some of us might be new to trading or new to the platform, just to give us a heads up on how we do our live trading session. Now, like I said, we won't be analyzing the charts much this morning, except for I will take a few questions. If you have, maybe you have a running trade, you want to manage your trade, between now and afternoon. Yes, you may go ahead and let me know so that I can guide you on how to manage a running trade. Trust Ugo, I'm not really doing analysis. We'll give you the real analysis in the afternoon. Today's NFP market is not really going to move much. This morning session, I won't even call it a 50-50. I would say more of a 70-30. On NFP days, it's just best you wait for the release of the data because NFP determines what will happen to the dollar in the next couple of weeks or months thereabout. All right. Maureen is saying I have sell trade on GBP JPY. Okay, let me look at that. Please take note. I'm only attending the questions to manage trades, not doing fresh analysis. So let's put that in mind as we drop those requests. GBP JPY. Okay, Maureen saying she's on a sell trade on GBP JPY. Okay, well, we have a rising wave pattern on GPJP on the daily time frame that is giving an indication of possibly a long-term bearish direction. But currently, we have NFP ahead. Now, NFP is very sensitive because it could cut across all instruments in the market. It's not just about the dollar. It shakes the entirety of the market. So how do you manage this trade you have on? Because it looks like you are on the long term, yeah, your direction is right, but on the short term now, price is not going that way. Price is rather buying than selling. So, but if price could hit this resistance, today before the release of the data, you may see some downward movement. So if I want to ask Maureen now, I believe, let me not even ask you from the tone of the question, there's a possibility that you are on a negative trade, I want to believe. So the thing is, do you have enough liquidity to hold the price till it hits that resistance level before we can think about a reversal? Now let me zoom out big. All right. So price now will need to go at least about 39, 40 pips. Okay, about 30, yeah, about 39 pips before we can think about a reversal. So do you have the capacity? Is your capital, your equity, is it big enough to hold that trade for that long? If your equity is not good enough to hold that trade for that long, you have two options. Option one is that maybe you top up your account, you add additional capital to your account so that it can be safe for you to leave that trade to run to hit the resistance and possibly fall later on. That's option one. Option two is you can close the trade. Those are the two options that are available because currently the market seems to be bullish while you are on a bearish trade. And if you don't have any stop loss at all up to now, I will advise you also put a stop loss on that trade. So if at all your current equity can carry the trade without you having to top up or close the trade, then I will advise you put a stop loss. And I also want to believe you are not taking unnecessary risk with a high lot size. If all that is met, then you might need to just put a stop loss to put a stop loss above the current resistance level. Now we have about, wow, we have about 47 pips to, that's roughly over 50 pips of price movement. In fact, this is showing me like 70. Just a second, let me get it clearly. I need to put a stop loss above this, the tip of this candle up here. At least some 5 GBJPY, some 10 pips. All right, 12 is okay. So you might be looking at, wow, this is stop loss of almost 70 pips. Are you sure your equity can carry this? But the choice is yours. You may need to put a stop loss at GBJPY at 200.353. You may put a stop loss there. But otherwise, if you know that is much of a stress or a burden, I will advise you just close the trade if the risk is not too much. All right, so that's my response to Maureen. Okay, Dozie Chukwogo is asking, what if she edges that GPGPY with an equal long to hold till 1:30 p.m.? To be honest, I'm not a fan of edging. It's cool, still lead to a loss either ways. So sometimes you just take your loss peacefully rather than try to complicate issues. Um, okay, Mr. Ekpe Ambassador, GPUSD, are you asking me to analyze or you asking me to guide you? If you have a running trade, like I said, I'm only attending to running trades that needs to be managed. I'm not doing fresh analysis this morning. Okay, Tino Trust Udo is saying I'm buying gold, sir. Okay, so let's check gold. Now, gold hit its all-time high, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, at over 3,570 dollars per ounce. But then it seems to be taking a little breather. Now, the truth about gold this morning is that gold is going to react to the dollar, and that will be more in the afternoon. So currently, I can't. If you watch my analysis yesterday, I said gold, just be careful. Be very, very careful with gold. I can't tell you whether it's buying or selling. The dollar is what will determine, what is going to happen to gold next. Yeah, as I yesterday, I drew this range. It was trading within a range. Currently, honestly, I can't tell you whether gold is going to buy or sell. So if you have a trade, you may just put a stop loss in place just in case things don't go as planned. There's no direct analysis of gold for now. Mr. John Olumi is saying that I'm on a sell trade on CAD JPY. Please check CAD JPY for me. Okay. All right. So this is CAD JPY, and the overall trend is actually bearish. So you are not wrong on that trend. But the thing is that today is NFP day. We don't know how, Canada too will be releasing its own data. So we don't know how that data, and the direction the market will go after the release of that data. If there was no NFP from both our unemployment from US and Canada, I will say just leave it. It could be a swing trade with time, things will come around. But since there is a news today, then you have to take caution. You have to take caution. But then let me check CAT CHF. Possibly I can guide you better. Okay, let me open a fresh page for CAD CHF. CAT CHF is actually in a range, so can determine it doesn't have any direction. So let's check the anti. All right, please. Let's mute our devices for those who are just joining us. Mr. Emmanuel, AUD card. Okay, let's not get ourselves too worked up. From what I'm seeing with card JPY, the overall trend is bearish. But then there's news today. Mr. Emmanuel Abel, this will be my last warning. If you are unmuted again, I might have to kick you out of the group. All right, so like I said, there's a possibility we may end up with a bearish trade, but to be honest, I can't guarantee that now. So what I will advise you do is this. If the risk is not too much, it's actually around a range at the moment. If you can close that trade, I will advise you close it. But if you don't want to close it, no problem. Look for a stop loss. Since you're on a sell, right? Look for a stop loss just a little bit above this eye, some 5 pips above this eye. Just put your stop loss there. Yes, at 107.617. So if the data goes as planned, I'm seeing it more as a bearish one, technically. The data goes as good, then price will continue for that. But otherwise, it will just hit your stop loss and you can still protect your account. So that's my advice. At least you have some 24 pips of movement before price hits stop loss. So that would be my advice to the person asking about CAD JPY. Okay, Progress is saying I also have a buy trade on GBP USD. Now, as much as possible, always avoid having a carryover trade, you know, that will run, that will be active as at the morning of NFP. It's always advisable if you can close, if you can avoid placing trades, towards the end of the previous day or early in the morning of NFP, the better. Just avoid it. Avoid it as much as possible because NFP can change direction, can change everything. I have a buy trade on GBP Okay, if you have a buy trade on GBP you should be in profit now because this is actually looking bullish at the moment. It can change later in the day. So if you have a buy trade, progress more. Let me ask you the question: are you in profit? If you're in profit, I will advise close it. Or if you don't want to close it, put your stop loss to entry to lock in your profit and just watch. So that's the best advice I can give to progress more. Yes, okay. Who is in profit? Is it Mr. Ekpe Ambassador? Which instrument are you? Are you on GPUSD too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. If you're in profit, if you can close it, but if you don't want to close it, then put your stop loss to your entry so that your trade becomes safe. So that you can't lose on it again. The worst that will happen is price will hit your stop loss, which is our entry, and that's at the break even. That will be zero loss, zero profit though. So if you don't want to close it, just put your stop loss at entry price. That's all you can do. Yeah, the trend is bullish on JPUSD at the moment. Yeah, I've analyzed this a couple of times. I don't know if you are on board. It's an uptrend on the daily time frame. So I've seen this instrument go up a bit in the last couple of days. So just manage your risk on that trade. You are very much safe. Don't leave it open though and say NFP will come out in favor of it too. Just put a stop loss in place. All right, Mr. Shehu Kewuleri, I'm on a buy on BTC USD. Well, from my analysis on BTC USD before now, see, NFP can change everything. That's the truth. But from my previous analysis on BTC USD, I said the times without number that we are on a long-term bullish outlook on BTC, and that stems from this analysis of a previous resistance which now turned support. Price broke the resistance, came to retest as support. So the next movement is a bullish movement on BTC USD. And with that in view, we can come down um to the daily time frame. I remember saying it yesterday. This is an inverse head and shoulder. I said it that means it will drop further to complete the second shoulder, then break out upwards. And if we take it to 4 hours,